sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is going to hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Now, if you know what you're worth, then go out and get what you're worth. But you got to be willing to take the hits and not pointing fingers saying you ain't where you want to be because of him or her or anybody. Cowards do that, and that ain't you. You're better than that.
Oh, you won't regret a single second. Trust me.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a successful motivational speaker and trusted life coach, Nancy knows how you can live the life you want regardless of the challenges you face. Although she's legally blind, Nancy's mission is to inspire others to overcome obstacles and live life full out. Call in at 800-333-0001 to ask Nancy for advice on topics such as relationships, finances, business, health, and more. Just call 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Hello, welcome to the Living Full Out Show. I am Nancy Solari, excited and happy to be here with you today. So today we're going to be talking about taking control in your life. Wow, what a great feeling, right? To have everything in control, everything in order. That's how life is, right? It's not. No, we all know that life is out of order. Life has the unexpected. Life can be disappointing, but life can also be a treasure. It can be exciting and it can be fulfilling. And so today we want to figure out how to take control back in our lives so we can have that warm, secure, exciting feeling that's meant to be when you're living a life full out. We're also going to be taking your calls. Again, that number is 800-333-0001, 800-333-0001. Coming up in our next segment, we'll have Crystal Oertle, who will be talking to us about her inspirational story, how she overcame addictions to so many different kinds of drugs and alcohol. But really, it was not just an epic moment that gave her a wake-up call. It was her. It was her determination to say, I got to make a change. I got to take control back in my life. So her story is just awesome in that way. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at Living Full Out. You can send us an email at connect@livingfullout.com. So if you have an inspirational story that you feel would benefit our community and have learned some lessons over your life that you'd like to share, send us an email. Let us know that story, and perhaps we'll have you on the air as a guest. And if you'd like to listen to this show or any other past shows, you can go to livingfullout.com and check out the shows. All the episodes are there for you by title. Check them out. And every day, get as inspired, as empowered as you can so that you truly can take control back in your life. It isn't so much the fact that life has to control us. We have the ability to say, you know what? I want better for my life. I want XYZ in my life. But you have to be willing to put the words out there. I firmly believe in affirmations. So self-affirmations is when you talk to yourself. So once in a while, you might talk to yourself in the car or look at yourself in the mirror and say something positive. That is when you're giving yourself positive self-affirmations. Now, sometimes we can say negative thoughts, but I want you to kind of try to cast those away. Try not to let the negative thoughts you say to yourself out loud or the thoughts in your head control your life. It's time to take that control back and choose positive words. Take out the shouldn'ts, the couldn'ts, the wouldn'ts, the don'ts, and choose I will, I want, I plan to. All those words that will give you intention and give you action in your life. So as promised, we're going to go to the phone lines and hear from some of our callers. Welcome to the Living Full Out Show. Hello, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hi, thank you for joining us.
Hi, my name is Mark.
Hi, Mark. How can I help you today?
I just had some anxiety lately, and I just was hoping to be able to kind of work through it maybe a little bit.
What's giving you the most anxiety?
I have problems going out in public places and just kind of enjoying myself where there's big crowds around. I just kind of get nervous.
Do you worry about what you should say to people, or is it too loud, or what is it that kind of triggers it the most for you?
I think it's a combination of things. It's not necessarily just, the talking to people. It's not necessarily in a social setting. It could be, at a concert or in a store where there's a lot of people or things like that. I just kind of get very anxious if there's a lot of people around me.
And that anxiety is one that actually a lot of people share. So I don't want you to feel like you're alone, because that's actually quite common, especially right now with so many things going on in the world. It can be kind of scary to be in places where there's a lot of people. There's a lot of unknowns, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's interesting because it's important that when you're in public places, you can look at that environment as scary, as negative. You could also look at it like terrible things could happen. What could happen? What if? All that chatter that goes into your mind will not allow you to enjoy that experience. Okay? We're talking today about taking control in your life, and we're talking about these thoughts that are in our head. We have to sometimes quiet them. Now, what you're experiencing is absolutely a valid experience. And again, social anxiety is one that a lot of people have. But what you want to try to do is look for the good in that situation. You want to try not to let the fear overwhelm you. Mm-hmm. Because fear actually stands for false evidence appearing real. It feels real, but it's a false reality. Because what's happening in the social structure, social community that you're in, whether it be a party or a concert or something like that, people are there to enjoy themselves, right?
Right.
They're celebrating a birthday. They're celebrating an anniversary. They're getting friends together or family together. And you're all there experiencing that joy together. So you have to choose. You have to choose to look at it like that versus who could be in the crowd that could cause a negative situation. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Like, for example, there's been a couple of times I've gone to the movies with family members, and before the movie starts, I just get very anxious, and it's almost like I can't even be there anymore, and I just kind of imagine like bad things happening and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. And again, I'm not gonna count that out, because that's a true feeling, that's a true fear that you have, and you have right to feel that way, because there's been times in our history here where bad things have happened in theaters, right? So you've heard those stories. But you have to choose that when you go, that's not going to happen. You have to find a way in your body when you're in that theater to say, you know what? I know all these negative things could happen. They could. But you have to choose to decide, am I going to live my life in what could happen, or am I going to live my life in what is happening?
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. I guess logically, it just sometimes it's hard to take something logical and put it onto something that's illogical, like a fear of something that probably will not happen.
Mm-hmm. But see, here's the thing. The reality is those things that you fear, they have happened. So they're not fantasies that have never happened. They have happened. And so you want to be mentally prepared if they happen at a time when you're at that theater, when you're at that concert. But what I'm urging you to consider, and it is hard because these are legitimate emotions that you're feeling. These are real for you. And little by little, what you want to do is try to put yourself in those circumstances, but not in a super huge way. Like, I wouldn't go to a big concert right now if you really feel this way. I would have yourself go to like smaller environments, feel really comfortable, and then grow into larger social gatherings. Right. But the thing is, what I want you to feel in your body when you're in these circumstances is all that stress, all that anxiety, that's festering, that's spiraling throughout your body, and you don't want that. This is where logic has to come into play, where you have to tell your heart, you have to tell your body, let that go. Have faith that it's all going to work out.
How about things like meditation or something like that?
Meditation's great. Absolutely. When you're in an environment like that, focus on something that makes you happy. And, throw yourself into the person that you're talking to. Try to block out what could be and always stay in the place of what is.
Right.
Okay. But
Okay.
I absolutely appreciate you calling in. Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for calling in. Thank you. He brings up such a great question. I mean, the thing is when we're in situations where we feel out of control, we can't control our environment. How do we bring that control into play? How do we let ourselves feel secure, let ourselves feel confident? And it is kind of a tricky, slippery slope because one could say, oh, just take control of your life. Just say positive affirmations. But the reality, what is happening in our body is not always easily controlled. And that's exactly what our last caller was experiencing. So when I say don't let yourself be hung up on what could be, but what is, it's because you have to learn how to control your body, how to let your body not control you, how to take that mind, that positive mindset, and let it wash over your body. That might be that when you're in a stressful situation, you might need to rub your hands really, really fast. If you do that right now, you rub your hands really, really fast, heat occurs between your hands, right? That heat is energy. And that heat will always bring you into the present. So when everything is circling around you and your life is out of control, I want you to rub your hands and I want you to feel that heat, because that heat will always allow you to stay present and in the moment. There's a lot of other tools like this that I'd like to share with you, and we'll post those on livingfullout.com. Or again, send us an email at connect@livingfullout.com. So we are going to be coming back with our special guest, Crystal Oertle. She'll be sharing her inspirational story. And thank you again. This is the Living Full Out Show. We'll be right back.
Dad, this is fun. I didn't think I'd like kayaking.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, but I think it's time to head back in.
Okay. Can we come back?
Sure.
Tomorrow?
Let's check with Mom. Hey, be careful getting out of the boat.
It's a kayak, Dad.
I'm gonna return the kayak. Let's make sure you have everything.
Yep. Can we walk home?
How about a taxi? 233 North Maple, please.
It's a short fare from your neighborhood to your naturehood. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a neighborhood park or green space near you. Also, find fun activities to do like boating and biking or camping and hiking, plus much more. It's all right in your naturehood.
Best day ever.
A public service announcement brought to you by the Ad Council and the U.S. Forest Service.
Chances are there'll never be an emergency ever again. But just in case, let's talk about a plan.
Okay.
Who is going to grab the go bag?
What's a go bag? It is a bag we do not have that is filled with things we really, really need in an emergency.
Guess we won't have to worry about it then.
Well, this is great. I am so glad that we don't have a plan.
I know.
Winging it is not an emergency plan. Make sure your kids know what to do during an emergency. Who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
You take your 6-year-old to the playground. You watch her go down the slide, then run over to the swings. Another mother strikes up a conversation. You take your eye off your daughter for just a few seconds. You look back at the swings. And she's gone. Your heart drops into your stomach. You jump up, your eyes searching. You cry out her name.
Lily? Lily?
From the top of the slide, you hear a voice.
Mommy, watch me.
Every parent knows that feeling. Imagine if she were actually abducted. Go to wirelessamberAlerts.org. Sign up for free Amber Alerts on your cell phone. When an Amber Alert is issued in the areas you've chosen, you'll receive a free text message. If you spot the vehicle, the suspect, or the child described in the alert, call 911. Sign up today at wirelessamberAlerts.org. A child is calling for help. This message brought to you by the Wireless Foundation, the U.S. Department of Justice, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. A professional motivational speaker, Nancy can help you overcome obstacles and start living full out. Call in with questions live at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Thank you for joining us today. I am Nancy Solari, and this is the Living Full Out Show. And today we're talking about taking control back in our lives. I say that because on a daily basis, you're going to be challenged. It might be something so small as a flat tire or just a to-do list that never gets done. And that might be frustrating to you. Or it might be something very large. And frustrating is not even the word for those that we lose in our life. Or any loss, financial loss, love loss. All of these moments can make us feel as if we're out of control. But sometimes life is not full of challenges. Sometimes our life is beautiful and great, and we can still be seduced or taken into roads and avenues that we wouldn't have expected. And I share with you that because that's truly where our next guest, Crystal Oertle's story, is one that's on par with. And what I mean by that is she had a great family, a great upbringing, but she still found herself addicted, seduced by the world of drugs and alcohol. And I want to bring Crystal in so she can tell her story for herself, but it's one where you want to listen closely because you never know when you're going to be offered that drink or that drug that could change your life. And so welcome, Crystal, to the show.
Hi.
So,
thank you.
Well, welcome. So I wanted to share with our audience up front that, you grew up with a very loving family. You weren't from a broken home. You didn't have all these stresses that we hear so oftentimes from many of our guests who grew up in tragic situations. But nevertheless, you were still introduced to drugs at a young age, and that kind of took over your life.
Yes, it did. I was introduced at the age of 12, and that was pot. I smoked pot for the first time. And for some reason, I just loved it. I loved that feeling of having a buzz, and I would seek out that for many years to come and many different drugs. I struggled a lot. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I'm just curious, at 12 years old, obviously you're not going out there and buying it for yourself. And
right.
So who did you get access from in terms of those drugs?
A family member, an older family member.
Okay. And in that, did you know that was not the right thing to do at 12 years old? You knew it was wrong, but you did it anyway?
Yeah, I must have, because I hid it from my mom, so I must have known it was wrong in a way.
Okay. Now, at 12 years old, you started smoking pot. What was your next drug that you experienced?
The next drug, I would say, was alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Then it progressed into cocaine. By the time I was a senior in high school, I was snorting cocaine before school some days.
Now, at 16, again, where are you getting the access to these drugs? Even at 16, where were you getting that from?
So that was from an older boyfriend at that
mm-hmm.
time. He was about 4 years older than me.
Mm-hmm. At what point did you start purchasing drugs for yourself?
Probably in my early 20s.
Okay.
I would say, yes.
So most of the time, it was pretty easy to get access to the pot, to the cocaine, from your older relatives, older boyfriends. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I'm just curious because for so many in our community who maybe haven't done various drugs, did pot and cocaine give you the same high, the same feeling, or did they affect you differently?
They affected me differently, for sure, but it was still, I felt different. I liked it. The pot kind of made me feel goofy, giggly, and then the cocaine made me feel really sharp, on point, and like I was smarter than I thought, than I really was.
Well, yeah. and I'm just curious, if the crystal on pot was giggly and the crystal on cocaine was sharp, mm-hmm. how did the sober non-addictive Crystal feel? How did you feel on a day you were not using drugs?
By that point, I was probably, wanting drugs all the time. I can remember at 12, I wanted to go to that family member's house every weekend. Like, it's all I thought about and looked forward to because I knew I was going to be smoking pot that weekend. So it was constantly on my mind.
I see. Now, after cocaine, what drug did you experience next?
The next one was probably the opiates. Through high school, I did drinking and cocaine and continued smoking pot. I experimented with LSD a little bit. But then once I graduated and got out of school, in my early 20s is when I experimented with the opiates for the first time.
And when you say the opiates, which ones did you use?
The very first opiate that I did was a Vicodin. It was an extra strength Vicodin, just one pill. And I remember thinking that day, like, oh, I want to feel like this all the time. Like, the alcohol was okay, I liked the buzz, but once I did the opiate, it was like, oh, I don't need the pot or the cocaine anymore. This makes me feel right.
Now, and I say that's so interesting because you really sampled a lot of different drugs. So you had each of these emotions and each made you feel differently. What does, in your world at that time, what did right feel like?
Comfortable with myself. Like, I don't know. I think it made me feel like everything was okay. Less stress. The stress, wasn't there anymore. And it made me feel like I could deal with things, which is funny because it really ends up being the opposite.
Now, it's interesting. I want to get into the addiction part of that in a second, but during this time, obviously, you were in and out of a relationship with an older gentleman, but you had children, even even during this time of the years when you were using. Did having children not want to make you give it up, or did it make you want to do it more? Was that a stressor in your life?
Yeah, it was both. Very stressful. I was in a very tumultuous and abusive relationship, on again, off again, and it was my kid's dad. And so that was very stressful. And a lot of, what we had in common was the drug use. And so we had these kids together, and we're struggling, because we don't have money, and it, eventually it starts to become a problem. It makes us fight, and we're going through withdrawals, and it makes us fight, and we don't have money, and the kids, and so it's like you want to quit because it's what you need to do, but when you use, it makes everything go away. You don't worry about that anymore.
And your children, your son was the oldest, and as he got older, did he come to you and confess to you, Mom, stop, Dad, stop, or what was his interaction? Did you actually do drugs with them?
Around them, I would go in the other room and get high, and they would be out there. And my son's older; he'll be 18 in October, so he remembers a lot more. And he did come to me one time. I think he was probably maybe 12 or 13 years old, and he went into my bedroom. He searched until he found where I had hidden my spoons and my needles and my heroin, and he brought it out. And I was living with my mom at the time. He brought it out and gave it to her, like, here, take this, throw it away, make her stop. And I didn't know really until that point that he even was conscious and knew what was going on, but he very well did.
Now, I'm just curious, the person within you who had the addiction, were you angry at him for kind of calling you out, for bringing this out to your mom?
A little bit, yeah, I was a little bit. I think I was more angry, with my mom for some reason than him, but at all the same time, it's like, it's like, poor me, I'm the struggling addict. Why are you treating me like this? it's such a selfish disease, and I couldn't even see it at the time that he was begging for me to be normal and just to be his mom again.
Mm-hmm. And after you started to experiment with Vicodin, what was your next opium drug?
The next one was the higher milligram, like Percocet, Perc 10s, and then it moved up into OxyContin, 20, Oxy 40s. Then we moved up to Dilaudid, and then Oxy 80s. So it got, it goes right up the list there. It's stronger, and because after a while the Vicodin wasn't working. It wasn't giving me a buzz anymore, and I'd have to take 2, and then 3 wasn't working, so I'd have to take a stronger pill.
And with drugs like drinking, when you come off that buzz, you need the next drug to keep yourself at that same high.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. And what was the entire span? So if you started at 12, when did you finally stop all the drugs? At what age?
35.
35.
Yes, I'm 35 years old right now.
Wow. And I'm just curious, the last drug that you were using was heroin, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Was heroin kind of the granddaddy of them all, the one that gave you the best fix?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, when we come back, I want to go back to the heroin experience as well as your recovery. We're with Crystal Oertle right now, and she's talking about her addictions. This is the Living Full Out Show. We'll be right back. Stay with us, Crystal.
Okay.
Ahoy there, matey. How's the fishing this morning?
Shh! You'll scare the fish.
Oh, nonsense. Fishies love the safety pirate. Now tell me, I see you're wearing your life jacket, and that's mighty smart of you. But have you taken a boating safety course?
I have. Now, could you please leave?
So you know to stay alert by not mixing alcohol and boating, don't you?
I do.
But I bet you didn't know it's dangerous to speed on the water. Now, did you, Turbo?
Actually, I knew that.
Well, smarty pants. You seem to know it all, don't you?
Yep. Maybe even more than a safety pirate.
Watch your mouth, sailor!
When you're out on the water this year, make sure you're being safe. Learn the boating rules and watch out for other boaters.
And remember to boat smart. Boat safe.
A message from the National Safe Boating Council.
I want to change some things. I want the moms where I live to have childcare they can trust.
I want to make sure my little brother and his friends have a safe place to play.
I want to help more kids graduate from high school.
Help more hardworking families learn how to budget and save.
I want more of my neighbors to have access to health care.
Want to make a difference? There are so many ways you can. Help create opportunities for everyone in your community.
I want to change what I see around here.
United Way is creating real, lasting change where you live by focusing on the building blocks of a better life: education, income, and health.
I just want to see more smiles on my sidewalks.
Reach out a hand to one and influence the condition of all. Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United. For more, visit United Way at liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a trusted life coach, Nancy will help you overcome setbacks and embrace all life has to offer. Call in with questions live at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Welcome back to the Living Full Out Show. I am Nancy Solari, and we're talking about taking control back in our lives today. And our inspirational guest that we're with right now, Crystal Oertle, is a perfect example of one's need to take life back into their control. She's sharing with us about her addictions to so many different drugs, alcohol included, but drugs such as pot, cocaine, heroin, Vicodin, and so many more in between. So I'd like to welcome Crystal back to the show.
Hi, thank you.
Hi. So, I mean, we could list all these drugs, and it's really mind-blowing, Crystal. It is mind-blowing how many drugs you did for so many years between age 12 and 35. And I think what comes to mind for me is, what is one of the biggest regrets that you have that's such a large span of your beautiful life to have given over to these drugs?
You know what? If I could take one thing back, knowing everything I know now, I would not have ever wanted to even try a drug in the first place. I mean, it's given me a lot of experience and compassion and being able to advocate and help other addicts. So, you know, I mean, I wouldn't change it literally, but, I mean, if I could, I probably would. It's really put a lot of stress on my family, my kids, myself personally. I have hepatitis C from using heroin needles. So, yeah.
You know, and thank you for being vulnerable enough to say that, because I think that we have to be honest. That's the first step in any recovery, is just being honest. Now, you know, unlike some addicts who might have their family come to them and have an intervention, or maybe they have quote an epic moment, you didn't really have that. I mean, you had kind of a heart-to-heart conversation with your mom, and that's what got you to quit. Can you share with us about that moment?
Yeah. I mean, eventually my whole family knew that I was using, and they were disappointed, and, but they never, I was always welcome at family gatherings and holiday events and stuff. They didn't like it when I showed up high, and this went on for years. And, you know, like I said earlier, my kids eventually knew what was going on, and my mom was angry. She was sad and terrified. I would disappear for weeks on end, and nobody knew where I was. And then eventually it just got to the point where, you know, she was like, you've got to stop. Like, you know, enough is enough. Basically, it was really just a matter-of-fact way that she said it to me, and I was like, wow, there's really no even emotions even left anymore. I deadened all these people in my life.
And you took those words of wisdom, and you did go to outpatient, you did stop. But then, you see, in April 2015, was that when you went into recovery?
Yes.
Okay. Now, unfortunately, in February 2016, you relapsed. What was it that made you relapse after all that hard work?
I think I got complacent. I thought that things should happen faster. I mean, I didn't have a job. I didn't have my own car yet. I was still going to my group and everything, and I got some tax money. So I had the money, which was a trigger, and I was still at that time talking to some old friends that were still using, and so I knew right who to call. And so that was in February, and it was about 3 days I used, and then, you know, I had this moment where I'm sitting in a house with people smoking crack, and it's 3 a.m, and my daughter's at home with my son, and they're calling me, texting me, like, when are you coming home? And I just look around and like, what am I doing here? Like, this is why I got into treatment and recovery. This is not what I want for my life. It was a real eye-opener.
Well, that actually is great that you had that moment, that you were able to catch yourself. You know, and I'm just curious, and there's a lot of people that know addicts of different levels. Some are as far as you were in your addiction, and some may be just addicted to one thing, such as alcohol. But what is it that the family members and the friends can do to best support that addict? Because like you said, it's not just the person with the addiction that goes through the pain and the torment of this disease. It's everybody. Everybody's going down with them.
Yeah. I would say just educate yourself, learn as much as you can about addiction and about recovery, learn options, and keep the dialogue open. Keep talking to them. Let them know that you support them 100% without enabling. It's a very hard thing to do, to support an addict without enabling them to use. But my family figured it out, how to do it. They stopped giving me money. If I said, I need $30 for groceries, they'd be like, okay, we're taking you to the store to get the food. So I couldn't trick them anymore. And they were, just 100% supportive, and they still loved me, and we were honest about everything.
Do ultimatums work for an addict or not really?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it could, but really nobody is going to quit until they want to. It has to be the addict's choice. Nobody can force them to want to stop doing drugs. They have to want to stop on their own.
And for somebody who may be showing signs like you were over that period of time where they're trying new drugs, different drugs, they're kind of up in the ante, what do you do at that point? What does the addict do? What does the supporter do?
I would say try and just talk to them into getting into treatment, do the research and find out which places take what insurances and what do they give, medicine for withdrawals, and go to the addict and, ask them, what would you want in a perfect world, and you could stop doing drugs today, as painless as possible, what would you want? And, let it be up to them and let them tell you how they want to quit.
And just keeping the dialogue open. And
Absolutely.
And with these withdrawals that happen, I mean, most people have experienced maybe drinking too much and maybe the hair of the dog, having a drink to satisfy that hangover. But is that very similar to an addict who does drugs? What is that drug hangover like?
It's awful. The withdrawals from opiates and heroin are just, that is what motivates you to steal from your family and your friends, in department stores, wherever. Women sell themselves on the streets. That's what motivates that, is because the withdrawals are so bad. It's so terrifying to think about you're going to be going through that, in 12 hours or whatever.
What is the withdrawal? What is that feeling like?
It's, you sweat. Now, the physical, there's mental also, but the physical is, you're sweaty, you're hot, you're cold, you can't lay still. Your arms feel like, if anyone's had restless leg syndrome, it's like it aches so bad and there's nothing that'll make it stop. You can pace the floor, and as soon as you stop moving, your legs and arms hurt again. It just drives you insane.
And what is the mental?
The mental is, and, because I've tried to detox on my own, like at home, and it's just like, all you're thinking is, God, I could just call somebody right now. I could just call somebody. Why am I putting myself through this? And it's just, it's all you want. It's all you think about.
And so with all that torment that you just took us through, and I'm glad you did, because for all of us who haven't experienced that, you really took us there. How were you able to just stop? Like, how were you able to gather the wisdom, the insight to get yourself into an outpatient? What's the difference between you versus someone who can't?
I think, after so many years and being 35 years old and realizing that I had wasted my life so far, and I was getting ready to really start to affect my kids' life. My mom had health issues, and, all this just came together, and I wanted it. And, when I quit this time, I did a 3-day detox where they did give me something for my withdrawal symptoms to lessen them. It wasn't 100%, but it was very tolerable.
And what was that called? And what was that called, Crystal?
New Visions is where I went in Mount Vernon, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And then after those 3 days is when I started my outpatient at, it's called UMADOP. It's Urban Minority Alcohol and Drug Abuse Outreach Program. There's several of them in Ohio, I know for sure. And that's where I go for group. I sit in a room, with 15, 20 other peers that are there for the same reason. And then I have my individuals with my counselor. And, we do other things together. A few of us just walked in the parade today to raise awareness about addiction.
And you take and don't you take a certain drug that turns off the effects of the opiums now?
Yes. Yep. It's called Medicated Assisted Treatment. And what I take is Suboxone. Okay. And what that does for me, the way I describe it is, it takes at least 2 years for an addict's brain to heal and get back to being normal from all the years of abuse. And it's given me the time to learn the tools and the triggers about addiction and really just learn about addiction and recovery. And I don't have any, I don't crave heroin. I don't crave any opiates at all. And the Suboxone actually is a blocker. It has the naloxone in it that would block any opiates. I couldn't get high on opiates if I wanted to.
Well, I'm telling you, Crystal, just that knowledge that you just gave us right now is one for people to write down if they're facing addiction for sure. We're kind of at the end of our interview. I could talk to you for much longer, but I want to thank you for being on the show today, Crystal Oertle. You're awesome. Keep up that recovery. And everybody will be coming right back. This is the Living Full Out Show, taking your calls shortly. Crystal, thank you so much for sharing your story. Have a great day.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.
We'll be back.
Hey, Dad.
Yeah?
You remember that ball game we went to a couple years ago?
Sure.
And how you didn't have enough cash for 2 hot dogs, so you walked with me on your shoulders until we found an ATM? And then when we got back to our seats, we never saw the hot dog guy again.
Well, I don't remember all that.
Yeah, that was an awesome game.
You never know which moments will be the ones they'll remember forever, so take time to be a dad today. Learn more at 1-877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Medical mistakes claim tens of thousands of lives every year. The healthcare community is working on it, but you can help. When you communicate with your doctor, when you ask more questions, you reduce your risk of suffering a medical mistake. Doctors can't answer if you don't ask. Help reduce your risk. Questions are the answer. Learn the 10 questions you must ask. Visit www.ahrq.gov. This message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality, and the Ad Council.
I'm getting a catcher's mitt.
I'm getting ice skates. I'm getting a devastating flood.
Adults are generous. We're even giving kids global warming, but we can still reduce greenhouse gas pollution. Go to fightglobalwarming.com. Brought to you by Environmental Defense, the Robertson Foundation, and the Ad Council.
The following commercial is sponsored by FeedThePig.org, an organization devoted to helping you save money. We will not entice you with messages like
lowest prices in town, dealer approved, certified pre-owned,
no obligation consultation,
nor will we brag about our
huge selection, enormous variety,
one-stop shopping,
everything under one roof,
or promise
prices reduced up to 75%.
A sale like this can't go on forever. Factory liquidation.
Financing options available.
We will offer no contingencies like
see store for details.
Prices and participation may vary.
Legal exclusions apply.
No purchase necessary.
Or try to convince you that our product will give you
leaner, tighter abs in minutes.
Perfect smile. Porcelain veneers.
Freedom from those painful, embarrassing bunions.
Because we simply want to help you spend smarter and save better. Log on to feedthepig.org. Find the benefits of saving for every stage of life. Brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
To take control back in your life and live full out, you have to be willing to be honest. Assess what is working and what is not working in your life. What is not working, you want to learn to let go of those bad habits, perhaps the friends or people in your lives that are not supporting you, and really focus on what is possible, knowing that your life is worth it and that you can take control back into your life and live a life full out.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a certified life coach, Nancy can help you to overcome challenges and start living full out. Call in with questions live at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Okay, here we are. Again, we're talking about taking control back in your life. How do we feel? We feel like we're starting to gain control? Have we thought about where our life is, where we want to change, make change happen? It's really important to take time once a week, once a day to assess what's not working, to assess where you might need to let go, where you might need to make changes. And so hopefully over the course of today's show, you've kind of thought about that, or you learned something by Crystal's story, our last guest, where you might need to make adjustments in your life. We've all had to do it. I have as well. And don't look at change as a negative. Don't look at it as something scary, because when you make a change, you're taking a risk, maybe. When you make a change, you're maybe letting go of something. You might miss it. You might not miss it. But either way, the great thing is when you make a change, there's hope. There's possibility, there's experiences that you never even knew that you would want to feel. So what I always think in my life, if I have door number 1, door number 2, and door number 3, I love door number 3. I love the unknown. I gravitate towards it. And I'm not saying that's everybody. Some people need the security of what they know, and that's fine. But in order to get control back in your life, you have to sometimes be willing to let go of things that are not serving you. Or you have to be willing to be honest or listen a little bit harder to what people are saying and be willing to accept that advice. I think our last guest was right on point when she was told by so many people in her family to make change, to stop the drugs, and she heard it. It was kind of like wonk, 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 wonk. But eventually her mom said it in such a stern way that she got it. And it wasn't probably so much what her mom said. It wasn't so much the way she said it. It was because Crystal's listening was ready. She was ready to make that change, more ready than she ever had been before. And perhaps you're ready. Perhaps this is your moment. This is your day where you're just sick and tired of being sick and tired. You're tired of the same habits. You're tired of running the same circle of people that don't support you. This is the day to make that change. And how do you make that change? You put together a list of ways in which you can grow, in which you can evolve. That might be taking action steps, like if you're trying to get in shape or embrace a certain lifestyle, what action steps would get you there? Or perhaps if it's something that you can't do yourself, seeking resources both online or asking people how you can get to where you need to go. Believe it or not, there's resources out there aplenty. I mean that sincerely. From small town to big city, the resources are there. And there's low cost, there's free, and of course, there's ones that you can pay for. But just go online if you can. Search and see what is possible. When you do these steps, that's how you take control back. That's how you allow all these don'ts, shouldn'ts, couldn'ts swirl around you and define what your possibilities could be. So we're going to actually join one of our callers now and see what's going on in their lives. Hello, welcome to the Living Full Out Show. Hello, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hi.
I had a question, related to understanding what one's purpose in life is when you're at a crossroads, and how you can best identify a vocation and a passion and live that full out throughout one's life.
Absolutely. Great question. Well, I guess one of the questions I have for you is, what is it that fires you up the most? Could be a hobby.
I feel passionately about justice in the world and about the state of our country and, the importance of ensuring that everyone has opportunities for advancement, to enjoy their lives, and to better themselves.
Now, is there a certain age group, or a demographic that you feel most protective of?
I would say not in particular, to be honest. I find that, folks in all age groups, regardless of background or, inherent characteristics, are, ones that I feel called to step up for, particularly those in vulnerable situations.
Okay. And when we talk about people in vulnerable situations, give me an example. What would be something that just comes to mind, a vulnerable situation?
Vulnerable situation, what comes to mind for me would be somebody who grew up in a household involved in a cycle of poverty, where the parents weren't home or perhaps were addicted to drugs, and where there was no one else to ensure their success. And I feel compelled to work to level the playing field because, I was lucky to grow up in a situation where I did have two parents in the household, where I was provided a number of opportunities. And I think it's important that we recognize that often, our perceived success as a result of merit can sometimes really just be the result of inherent circumstance.
So if you could help one person in that family household and you get one, would you want to help the father, the mother, or the kids more?
I'd say the kids.
Okay. And you would want to make sure that the kids were, safe, more hopeful about their future or their education? In what way?
I would want to make sure that they have the opportunities to live full out their potential as human beings with the inherent human dignity that they are endowed with, regardless of where they come from. And so I'd want to make sure that they have access to a quality education system, that they have mentors and folks who can identify the passions that I'm, in fact, trying to identify at this stage in my own life as well.
Well, here's the very interesting thing is we have actually pinpoint right now who your group is. That's your group. Okay? Now, all these questions came not accidentally. They were purposefully asked of you because when you started this conversation, you wanted to help everybody. But what we did just now is we took you down further, and you could probably niche this down even further if you wanted to, because it's great to want to help everybody, but that's a really big, tall order at the very beginning of your purposeful adventure. Okay? So what you want to do is start with one group in particular. And I want you to go back and listen to the show, and you can check, and you can kind of go back and listen to the recording, because it's important that you listen to the passion that you have. When you were answering these questions, you got more and more fired up. But when you got to the kids and you made that last statement, it was very concise. It was very specific. And I just bet, when you were answering these questions, how did you feel inside your body?
I felt like I had a greater sense of energy.
Mm-hmm. Almost like you were going to explode and you could talk about this for hours. Right?
Yeah, you could say that, definitely.
Yeah. And so here's the thing for you and everybody else to hear in this great example that you gave us. You're living your life in a purposeful way when you're so into the zone, when it's just like something that you just want to scream to the moon about it, when it's something that you could ramble on about for hours, when it's something that makes your heart just feel bigger than it actually is inside your body. That's when you know that you're in purpose. And you just took us through a great example. And I think if you were to really focus on how you could help those children, sit down and think of what you want to do is picture a certain child. It could be a boy, it could be a girl, or maybe not gender specific, but try to get as specific as you can. Think of a specific child. Think about all the pains, all the stresses, all the fears, all the anxieties that they're going through. Make a list of that. Make a list of all the dreams that they probably wish they had for themselves that they don't know if is possible. But then think of all the ways that if you were in front of that child, that you would want to help them. Would you want to get them with a counselor? Would you want to get them more educated? Would you want to get them better clothes? Would you want to get them better hygiene care? What would that look like? And so start thinking about all those avenues, how you want to help the children, and then from there, further build it out with the resources that you can have to help those children. And then you take all that knowledge and you write a book, or you take all that knowledge and you become an advocate for their cause, and maybe you fundraise, or you take it to Washington, or maybe you hit the speaking circuit, but you take that passion and you do something even bigger with it. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense, Nancy. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, my goodness, I can't wait to see you unfold. And, personally, the children, you always remember one other thing, too. The children that need you, they don't even know that you exist yet. So you have to do this because you have to help them. Without them, think of the children that would not be helped. Okay?
Absolutely.
Without you doing this. All right. Thank you so much for calling in.
All right. Have a good one, Nancy.
Have a great day. Bye-bye. So our last caller brought up a great point. How can we bring purpose into our life when sometimes we don't even know what we want? The interesting thing about that call with him is he did know what he wanted. It was actually right inside his body. He just had to vocalize it. He had to kind of pare it down and figure that out and further take action like the exercises I gave him. And you can do that as well. That's part of taking control into your life, is saying, I want to make a difference. I want more from my life. I want the crazy, the stress, the anxiety in my life to stop. Just like our guest, Crystal, when she said, I'm done, I'm stopping. You have the ability to stop the wild, crazy events in your life, the ones that distract you from your purpose. Just like our last caller, you have the ability to live a life that's purposeful. You just have to search it out. I want you to know that you're not alone on that journey. That's why we do this show every week. And so again, if you want to listen to this show or past shows, go to livingfullout.com. If you have questions that you want to share with us, connect with us at connect@livingfullout.com. You can take control into your life. It can be purposeful and beautiful. And truly, you have the ability to live your life full out. I believe in you. I want to thank everybody for listening, and we'll be back next week. Have a great day.